9 o'clock. Welcome everybody to the number 3 episode of an Archetypal Look at Masculinity through movies, myths, and legends. Tonight we're going to be focusing primarily on the magician. As you know, if you've watched some of the previous episodes, if you've been with us live, if you watched recordings, you can get our recordings on our YouTube channel. Just look at the Facebook page and you can get the link to the YouTube channel. But it's also, the YouTube channel is Movies, Myths, and Legends. I shortened it. So we're going to look at archetypes primarily through the lens of the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover. We're also going to go down the hero's journey with those archetypes and see how the hero's journey, they develop inside the hero's journey. And we're also going to look at, you know, the role of male initiation or a male that hasn't been initiated, you know, how they show up differently in the world. And we're going to do this primarily by looking at the classic, or maybe not so classic, but the stories behind these classic movies, myths, and legends. So sometimes a movie might not be a classic movie, like a movie Jim turned me on to called The Way. It's not a classic movie, but you watch the movie, and me and Jim were having a conversation just the other day about it, and I was like, that's the Wizard of Oz. And he was like, it was the Wizard of Oz. So there's so many of these. When you look at movies, myths, and legends, archetypically, the movie might be new, but the story is the same. The energy is the same. And we can always use that knowledge to learn how to guide ourselves during our journey of life. So today we're looking at the magician. And it's absolutely one of my favorite, if not my favorite archetype. It's probably where I spend the majority of my time, and that could be good and bad. And we'll look into, you know, why that could be good and bad. Jim, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hi, I'm sorry I missed last week. I was flat on my back, alone. And which made it less pleasant, but I was alone and I feel much better this week. So, yeah, I just spent last Saturday teaching king, warrior, magician, lover to Catholic seminarians. Ask me how much fun that was.
How much fun was that, Jim?
Oh, it was loads of fun. I was teaching up in Camarillo, which is between LA and Santa Barbara, in an old seminary on the second floor of a musty library with no air conditioning, 25 perspiring men, and 2 fans.
Wow.
Those were on stands kind of far away. So we spent a lot of time wiping the back of our necks as we spoke. But it was good. They really, it took them a while to get engaged, but they really did. Okay,
what was their biggest takeaway, do you think?
I think the biggest takeaway is that seeing symbolically, and when we talk about the king, warrior, magician, lover, and when you're talking about The Way, or you could talk about D'Artagnan and the 3 Musketeers, or the 4 women in either Little Women, or the 4 guys in 40-Year-Old Virgin, or the 4 women in Sex and the City. When you notice a quartet, look for the head, the heart, the actor, the one who's action, and the one who has to integrate all of them. As in Sex and the City, you got these 4 women, and Carrie listens to the stories of the heart from Charlotte, the stories of the head from Miranda, the stories of action and the body from Samantha, and then she integrates them all into a story. D'Artagnan in the
3 Musketeers.
Yeah, and I can't ever keep them all straight, but I'll look this up for another episode. But he's being advised by a lover, a warrior, and a magician.
Yeah. Yeah, so these 4 archetypes, the king, warrior, magician, lover, are present.
And that's what happened when you saw The Way. You have
Yeah. I just got a little blip on my internet. Okay, we look like we're back. Yeah, so
I always have a lot of fun with the seminarians because.
Go ahead, Jim.
I said I have fun with the seminarians because at least one of them in their earnestness calls me father.
Father Jim.
I always say, no, I'm not a priest. I just have the priest archetype. It spins them around and turns them upside down. There's always one, particularly the one who's the most questioning and skeptical, says, Father Jim. And I'll go, not a priest and not a father. But it's fun to watch them then start to try to twist into all of this. And of course, anytime I'm in teacher mode, I'm a magician.
Sure.
Anytime, because I'm a magician, because I cast a spell. And this one guy in particular, he was the most skeptical. And I said at the break to the priest who'd invited me up there, he's a vampire. He's draining all the energy from the room. May I engage with him? And the priest said, he does this all the time. Have a go at it. So he's the one who called me Father Jim. But it was fun because I said, it's okay to be a skeptic, but it's not okay to be a cynic, especially if you're going to be a priest. It's good to be a skeptic. I said, if you have a patron saint, it would be Thomas the Apostle, who had to stick his finger in Jesus' side. That would be you. And the whole class started laughing. I said, do I see you or do I see you? And that's one of the things the magician does, is sees.
Yes. Yes. And what and I was just watching as I've gotten to the habit from our viewers, just to let you know that the movie clips that we talk about, I play them, roughly about 10 minutes before we start at 9 o'clock. And some people see them, and it's good for me to kind of see them once again right before we start talking about them, but I noticed a couple of people didn't get on right till 9 o'clock or after. So I'm going to go back and just play them again so we have some foothold to have a conversation around. Yeah. Because that seeing is important, and how you use what you see, or sometimes more importantly, what's not there. And that's what Leonardo DiCaprio does in the first scene. He sees something that's not there at the end, but he sees it. He sees it clearly.
Yeah.
And he knows how to deal with it.
I was thinking he's very much the magician and the aviator also when he plays Howard Hawks. Or Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes, yeah.
He's an inventor. He's a visionary. He's a mad magician. But there's something cerebral about him, even when he's making all the money in The Wolf of Wall Street. That's magic. In fact, it's sleight of hand. So he quite often plays that, which keeps him at an emotional reserve. Other than in Titanic, he's usually slightly removed from things. Even when he creates the whole illusion of Great Gatsby, there's a part in his head that's removed.
Gotcha. So let's look at these clips. Where are they? Go.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes?
Do you know where room 17 French is?
Yeah.
You freaking killed him, dude. You selling encyclopedias? Yeah, it looks like a substitute teacher.
No, find out. Take it. I don't want you to keep it.
Here you go.
Oh,
you're too slow. You're just too slow. Quiet down, people. My name is Mr. Abagnale. That's Abagnale, not Abagnale, not Abagnale, but Abagnale. Now, somebody please tell me where you left off in your textbooks. Excuse me, people, if I need to ask again, I'm going to write up the entire class. Take your seats.
Chapter 7.
Will you please open your textbooks to Chapter 8, and we'll get started. Excuse me, what's your name?
Brad.
Brad, why don't you get up here in front of the class here and read conversation number 5.
Les Français sont généralement Donsler pays Q, press Q, tout le monde set impression.
They sent for me. They said they needed a sub for Roberta. I came all the way from Dixon.
Well, I always sub for Roberta. Excuse me, why aren't you reading?
Jewels on.
I'll never come back to Bellamy Jefferson again. You tell them not to call me. What do they think? It's easy for a woman my age and all the money that it costs to travel? I tell you, they don't give it there.
Mr. and Mrs. Abagnale, this is not a question of your son's attendance. I regret to inform you that for the past week, Frank has been teaching Mrs. Glass's French class.
He what?
Your son has been pretending to be a substitute teacher, lecturing the students, giving out homework. Mrs. Glasser has been ill, and there was some confusion with the real sub. Your son held a teacher-parent conference yesterday and was planning a class field trip to a French bread factory in Trenton. Do you see the problem we have?
Mrs. Davenport, I have a note to miss 5th and 6th period today. Doctor's appointment.
One moment. I'll be right with you.
Yes.
Fold it.
What?
That note, it's a fake, right? You should fold it.
It's a note from my mom. I have a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, but there's no crease in the paper. When your mom hands you a note to Miss School, the first thing you do is you fold it and you put it in your pocket. If it's real, where's the crease?
Bit, but I picked that clip particularly if you haven't seen the movie. His father was a bit of a con man himself. He was in business and he had to do a couple of things. He owed the IRS some money. The IRS was going to shut him down. He tried to con the bank. He brought the kid in on the con. Didn't work, and it was just so great how I believe how he didn't play the victim. Right, the magician allowed him. He gave him power, and in that moment of being, bullied when he came into the classroom. I mean, in the hallway he couldn't prevent it. He didn't see it. Kid just rammed him. They step into the classroom, and immediately he sees what's going on, and he sees opportunity. I think that's one of the things that the magician does for us when we can step into that archetype is see the possibility. What's possible? What's here? What material can I use? What resources do I have? How can I pull it together? What's missing? How can I rig it? Using all of that knowledge, pulling from it. So the magician is in the place of specialized knowledge and using it, borrowing from it, just tapping into it and faking it. You've heard the expression, fake it till you make it. That's definitely magician energy, and just like becoming something, acting. He had to act the part. When you were acting the part, you're definitely tapping into the magician energy as well. Now, when you get into being an actor, you have to also tap into a lot of emotional energy into the lower. But sometimes you have to manufacture that, right? It's not yours; it might be somebody else's. You have to tap into the situation and see it and feel it. They call that method acting, I think, Jim. They kind of immerse themselves in it, so they become part of it. So
one of the things with all actors is they're incredible observers of the human psyche. And so are magicians, because what he does there, in an instant, he can see the dynamics of the human psyche in that classroom and can manipulate it for good or for ill, but he's an incredible manipulator. And he's a spellcaster. He casts a spell in that classroom where even the regular teacher, the other substitute teacher totally believes him. And so this ability to see what's not obvious to other people, to really size up a situation in a very different way than the warrior does. The warrior does it in the way of defending oneself or making the place safe or strategic, but the magician sees, how do I manipulate? And you can manipulate good or bad, but how do I manipulate? How am I seeing what's not apparent to other people?
Yeah, and that's what I loved about that clip also at the end when all the action is over and the girl is giving the note to the secretary, and he just notices, and it's not what he sees.
Yeah.
Right? It's he sees what's not there. The crease is not there, and he sees that. So that is, to me, that's perfect. That's classic magician energy. That can you envision it? Can you be the visionary?
Mm-hmm.
You're being the visionary. A lot of times in business and very successful businesses, it's a two-headed monster. You have the person that's the especially with entrepreneurial businesses and startups, you have the one person that's really the visionary, and you have the other person that's like the operations, person that can kind of get it done. Because just because you can see it, it's there, it doesn't mean you can get it done.
He's also almost addicted to being a teacher. Not only is he teaching French, but he takes her on as an apprentice in the principal office to take on the fine art of folding and creasing the paper. Here's a magician's trick for a beginner.
Right. Yeah. So let's throw on the next clip.
Smoke.
I think I have all the advice that I can handle right now.
Don't get bitter.
I'm not bitter. I almost lost a nipple, okay?
That was Jay's idea, okay? And I wasn't going to say anything, but waxing your chest is like the gayest thing you could possibly do, okay? Look at me. Looks are not important. Really look at me. I am ugly as fuck by traditional standards, but I get with women. Aren't you curious as to how that's possible?
I am not ugly as fuck.
I didn't say you were ugly as fuck.
Well, you implied it.
Okay. It doesn't matter if you're ugly as fuck or you're ugly as shit. It's about talking to women, and I know how to do that because I observe, because I am a novelist.
What? You never told me that before.
That's because I'm not an arrogant prick, Andy. Okay? The problem most men have is they don't know how to talk to women.
You know what my problem is? I am not interesting. What am I supposed to say? I went to magic camp. I'm an accomplished ventriloquist. Oh, I am a 7th degree imperial yo-yo master. Oh, do me, yo-yo master. I want you to do me because you're the yo-yo guy.
Are you done? Listen, the problem most men have is they just plain straight up have no clue how to talk to women. Just ask questions, okay? That's it. Because women do not care about what you have to say at all, anyway, and all they want to do is talk about themselves. So you're just going to let them do that, okay? So remember, questions, be cool, and be kind of a dick. Here, be David Caruso in Jade.
Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You do. That's good. Oh, there she is. Go plant that seed, man. Plant it with your finger.
Can I help you?
I don't know. Can you?
Are you looking for something?
Is there something I should be looking for?
Oh, we have a lot of books, so maybe it depends on what you like.
What do you like?
We have a great section of do-it-yourself.
Do you like to do it yourself?
Sometimes. I mean, if the mood strikes.
How is the mood striking you now?
What's your name?
What's your name?
I'm Beth.
Andy.
Andy. Don't tell on me, okay, Andy?
I won't. Unless you want to be told on. Beth.
Wow, that
Totally worked. I literally said nothing, and she found me fascinating.
I would have thought you were doing that for years.
Oh, should I have asked her out?
No, that's the key. You wait for it to grow into a plant, and then you fuck the plant.
He mostly reminds me of Mickey Mouse in The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
A little bit, yes. He doesn't know what he's doing.
He knows he got all the buckets and mops started, but he has no idea what to do once they start.
You know, what I really loved about that that clip from the, from an archetypal perspective, is that inside the clip, he used what we're talking about in this.
Yeah.
He says, like, I don't know how to do. I don't know what to be. Okay, be David Caruso in Jade.
Yes.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I could do that. Like, then he knew exactly, and like, thought, perfect. That's like, that's the perfect use, I believe, of the archetypes. Or one of the uses of it, where I can say, who do I need to be? How do I have to be? Okay, I want to be Cary Grant, with my wife, or I want to be a John Wayne, or I want to be Seth Rogen, or whoever it is. But if you can kind of gravitate right away to that image of an archetype in a movie and understand, know what the result is, you really do some, that's ultimate magician work. Working with the archetypes, it really is been able to control the forces and work with the forces, understand them, and use them to produce a result in your life and others' lives.
It's also very funny because he's a student. If we're to take him at his word, he studied ventriloquism and yo-yo mastery and all of this nerdy stuff. And often the magician is seen as the geek or the nerd. Look at Stephen Hawking, or look at Bill
Gates.
Bill Gates, yeah. And what's funny though, which gives it away for me, is you're not getting out much if you know the movie Jade well enough. To remember David Caruso in it, you've spent a lot of nights at the video store looking for something to watch. But it's a very funny, very telling movie in that. When we talk of the magician, I think of Bill Gates, and I think of Stephen Hawking, and a great movie. I couldn't think of this last night, unfortunately, Frank, but Benedict Cumberbatch in The Imitation Game, when he plays Alan Turing, the inventor of the code.
Yes.
Stephen Hawking, when he comes up with the theory of everything. These are wizards. These are magicians and wizards. As I don't know if you have a beautiful mind here. Magician who teaches the king how to speak in the king, and when they ask what his credentials are, he doesn't have any.
Yeah.
He just knows.
And the magician is definitely in the realm. One of the domains of the magician is that place of specialized knowledge. So this could be defined, your doctors, your lawyers, mechanics, teachers, professors, anyone that, like a specialist. To become that and to be viewed as that, when people are coming to you, you're in your magician energy. And then it's like, okay, is it the good magician or the bad magician? The shadow or the light, and the difference between the shadow and the light, where the good magician, to break it down very simplistically, the good magician kind of stays in the question, doesn't know the answer. And the shadow of the magician is going to be the bullshitter. He's going to be the one that comes up with the answer. And it may not be the right answer. It may be the right answer, but it might not be. And a lot of people get caught up with their lawyers sometimes. Oh, I followed the advice of my lawyer. I believed him. And you come to find out the lawyer may have not had the credentials to do the work that he was doing, and misled them. But he sounded convincing, and he maybe even believed his own bullshit. So for me, what I have to watch out for my magician in my life is when I'm believing my own bullshit, about what's going on. When am I seeing possibilities in a situation, or am I bullshitting myself. And there's a fine line.
Yeah. Well, one of the aspects of the magician is storyteller. And a storyteller casts spells. As soon as you say once upon a time, or there once was, and you move in with any kind of intimacy, you're pulling people under a spell. And you can use that story to manipulate people. You can use the story to liberate them. You can use the story to empower them or to put them under your thumb. Depending, and with the right emphasis and the graduation, the degree or not. The great filmmaker, Steven Spielberg, is a magician par excellence. George Lucas is a magician. Coppola, they're all magicians. They create universes, out of their imaginations.
Sometimes at Universal.
Yeah. Well, you know what I was thinking of too is there's a battle of magicians in the X-Men because you've got Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
Oh yeah.
And they're doing magic battle,
Oh, that's the classic, the good and evil.
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing with the Lord of the Rings. You have Gandalf and begins with an S, not Sauron. White Wizard. The White Wizard. Yeah, so there's always that the yin yang, the good and the bad, and that's classic storytelling. And speaking of that, I want to show one of my favorite magician clips from the Lord of the Rings.
You're late.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
It's wonderful to see you, Gandalf.
I don't think I miss your Uncle Bilbo's birthday.
Oh, I said this before, that's one of my favorite movies, that trilogy. I think we could just watch those and go on an archetypal journey with everything we're talking about as far as the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, the hero's journey for sure. There's several of them going on. And, initiation versus not initiated. Absolutely, there's some major initiation going on in the Lord of the Rings. So we could really say, and then maybe we'll do that in the future. We can just take segmented movies and look at them. I know that you do that in your private practice, Jim, and some of the teachings, that you'll take a movie and just, run it through and see the different archetypes.
One of the things with Gandalf and with any magician, watch the eyes, watch his eyes. While Frodo's looking at him, Gandalf, without saying anything, sees 100 different things and lets you know he sees more than you ever will. And there's a playfulness about that. There's a peace within him from that. He knows who he is.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's right around that time, and if it's okay with you, I'm going to promote our viewers to panelists, and we can open up to some questions and dialogue. We don't have too many people joining us tonight. I'm not exactly sure. Hello, Mr. Atia. Good evening, Mr. John Racconzella. And hello, Andai Ferron. If you guys want to take yourself off mute and join the conversation, ask any questions, that'd be great. What do I have to take you off mute? Can I take you off mute? I can take you off mute. And I am going to unmute you if that's okay. I guess you're calling in. And John, I'll unmute you if that's okay. And what happened to Atia? Did we lose him? Maybe we lost him. No, they're still here. Everyone's still here. Okay. Great. And everyone's off mute. Any questions out there from what you've seen?
Yeah, one question for me. Where do I find these clips again so I can...
So when I, this meeting, this webinar will be recorded. It is being recorded. So I will include those clips in this recording. You should get an email tomorrow giving you a link to the YouTube channel.
On the YouTube channel, you have the names of the movies and all that?
No, it'll be this recording. It'll be this recording. If I tell you, if you just want these clips, just shoot me an email and I'll send the clips to you.
But I'm not worried about the clips. I like to watch the full movie.
The full movies, okay. So the full movies, it's Catch Me If You Can, was the first movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, and the second clip was from the 40-Year-Old Virgin, which was any Seth Rogen movie is very funny to me. I don't know exactly why. I really enjoy his humor. And obviously the Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, that was the first one, the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay. Yeah, if you can add this, I think it would be helpful for people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, sometimes we try not to look at the whole movie. One of the things that kind of got distorted last week when we were talking about the warrior, I showed a clip from the Lord of the Rings. It was almost the last scene when Frodo is pushes his way away from the shore to go on his trip to Mordor alone. And with that, Samwise Gamgee comes running out of the woods and walks into the water. And Frodo says to him, I'm going to Mordor alone. And he says, of course you are, and I'm going with you. and he keeps walking, and he says, wait, Sam, you can't swim. And he says, and he just keeps walking, and he starts to drown. And then Frodo goes back and picks him up and pulls him out. And he says, Frodo, I made a promise, and I'm going to keep my promise. And I thought that was a very good
the code of the warrior.
The warrior, I'm keeping my word. Dramatization, of the warrior. I gave my word. I didn't give my word to you, but I gave my word not to leave your side. And even if it means walking across this lake, I'm gonna do it. I can't swim. Even if I have to put myself in harm's way, I'm gonna keep my promise. And I thought that was really a great illustration of the warrior. And I used it, and then, someone else had commented, well, it might be the little bit of the shadow warrior because he didn't recognize any risk. He really did it foolishly. He did it, he kind of cast himself into harm's way. And someone argued that it might be a little bit of the shadow in there. And then what happened, Atia, is it got it, well, in the context of the story, and people started interpreting the whole story. When we showed the clips, I just tried to pick a clip that, standing on its own, we can see the archetype. We don't have to watch the whole movie. Yeah, Jim.
The actor who plays Sam is also... This is a lab right now to see what develops.
So is it okay if I'll give you a little bit feedback?
Absolutely.
I think if you think about it like commercializing it or whatever, scale it up, let's use a better word. I think you want to make some room for interaction of people about the characters and whatever they.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is the people that participate that come here on Wednesday nights, I send out a 12-part question. 12 questions.
So now I have homework to do. Okay, good.
If you want. I mean, a couple of people have done it, and they found it helpful.
I'm sure.
What we might do is in between the archetypes, after you send out the questions, they have a time to look at them. It might be interesting to do a session where we discuss the questions with them.
Sure.
Their feedback, what they get from it.
Right.
It's a concept that what I see, I struggle myself. How do I bring it to life? In theory, it sounds good. How do I bring it to life? How do I use it? Working with people sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's one of the trap of the magician. We get to stay in the, well, what if, how can we do this? Oh, it'd be great if we do this. Oh, it'd be great, seeing all the possibilities. As a magician, I know, Atia, you've got some magician in you as well.
Really? I never thought about it.
You can see all the possibilities. There's 1,000 possibilities. So which one do you choose? Right? That the magician is not the one so much to choose. The warrior chooses, or the king chooses.
Yeah, maybe that's
yeah, sure. Whatever way we go, we'll go. It'll be good. Matter of fact, sometimes definitely the more chaos there is, the more at home the magician is. The magician likes chaos. Actually had a clip queued up.
So can we build like a questionnaire that like Myers-Briggs that we would be able to give people their place in this world?
They actually have something called Taylor Protocol that creates an archetypal profile.
It would be interesting to see that.
With just the 4, Frank?
No, it's their 4. It's or their 8, I believe. But I forget exactly. I'm not qualified in Taylor Protocol, but it's a business tool. It's like a Myers-Briggs profiling test, a Colby profiling. But when a friend of mine was telling me about it, I was like, "That's archetypal. That's all archetype." Yeah. And they send questions out, and people answer the questions, and at the end it tells you they're all 4, obviously. And what you let off with, of course, is the head, the heart,
and action, and integration.
And integration, so it's, and which one are you more of? And it's a way for companies to use this Taylor Protocol to take a B player and make them an A player. To basically say, go where your strength is. This is where your strength is. This is what you should be doing.
Also, this is where you need to build up strength.
Well, a lot of those tests they're not used to strengthen weaknesses, because these things, and again, remember from our training with Carolyn, if you don't have the strong magician archetype, or if the magician archetype is not if one of the magician archetypes in the system that we learned is not in your house of occupation, right? This is the 6th house, I believe. You're probably not going to be a doctor, right? I mean, that's just so.
So, can you tell me what
you could study? You can go to college, you can become a doctor, but you may not like it, and you may not be a very good doctor. Because
but you might have the magician and be a storyteller.
Yeah.
Which is a very strong storyteller. They would never let me into medical school, but not only do I cast spells with stories, I know how to heal with stories.
Sure.
I really use that as a healing tool with my clients, help them reframe stories, see their stories from a different perspective. Because that's a lot of what the magician is about, being able to see different points of view, being able to see from some kind of an elevated place. Notice how often magicians are in towers and they're looking down at the world. They're set apart and observing a little bit rather than participating. And quite often in heroes' journeys, the hero has to find his way to the magician. The magician doesn't simply make himself available. Another way, it's like the teacher, the guru, all of those fit under the magician.
Yeah. You haven't seen Vikings. I know we talked about it a few times.
Yeah.
The History Channel has a show, Vikings, and there's a character in Vikings in Kattegat, which is the town, the Viking village that the king is from, Ragnar Lothbrok is from, and there's the seer. Right, and there's this guy who has the hood like a monk's hood on, and his face is disformed face. And they go and they go to see the seer. They get witness, a counsel from the seer, and he's always answering him in these riddles. So you can never. It's just a way of seeing. He says that's. And at the end, the funny thing, the eerie thing about it is when they're finished and he says, "That's it, I see no more." He sticks his hand out. Mm-hmm. They have to hold his hand and they have to like lick his hand. They give him homage. And it's like, oh, yeah. And they all do it. The kings do it. All these people of great power lick the hand of the, and
yeah.
It's just that knowledge that I believe from the king. To really arise to your fullness of a king, you have to have a strong magician. Mm-hmm. You have to have a strong magician to advise you, whether that's our magician inside of us or whether that's our magician, somebody else outside of us.
When you bring up riddles and mysteries, in the scriptures, when Jesus is in the role of magician, he uses parables. He constantly tells stories that confound their way of thinking, that don't have simple answers. They think they're going to get a simple answer. They say, well, who is my neighbor? And instead of telling them, he tells the story of the Good Samaritan. And uses an example of the good neighbor that just messes with their minds. It shatters their framework. They have to see it in a whole new way. Or in the Good Shepherd, he uses these to shatter our perspective. And the good magician does that. Zen koans do that. What's that sound of one hand clapping? Well, okay, that's the first 5 years in the monastery trying to figure that out, probably. I don't know. But it's you use these things, among other things, to play with the rational mind, to move it to a place where that's not enough and you have to move toward intuition. You have to make leaps. It's like Einstein. Einstein didn't reason his way to the theory of relativity. There was no way to do it. There weren't any steps yet. He had an intuitive hit and then tested it against reason. That's what magicians do. They don't always know. So they have a vision and then they test the validity of the vision by experiments or in laboratories or
on the internet.
On the internet, yeah.
To give you a perspective from a different culture, I don't know if you're aware of the Hasidic masters. So most of the work was done by telling stories.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Their stories are always puzzles. Do you know? There's a beautiful. Let's see if I can think of his name. I've got his book in the other. This Talmudic master name. I wish I could think of his name, but he wrote a book called "I Asked for Wonder."
Okay.
I've got it in the other room. I can find it. I just can't think of his name. And one, huh?
I'll check it out.
Hold on, I'll even get it if you want. It's just in the other room.
No, tell the story. You'll get.
Well, he says part of this, and part of
He's very famous.
Huh? Yeah. This is a wonderful book. It's sort of an anthology. It's not a. But what he talks about is wonder and awe that surpasses what reason can give us. So that's why the mystic is also and he's a mystic, that writer. And that the mystic sees things, comprehends things that cannot be. It's when Hamlet says to Horatio, there's more in heaven and earth than's dreamt of in your philosophy. He's saying there's more in the world than you can rationalize, that you can reason with, you know? Because philosophy was all the rage then. That's everybody's going to school in philosophy, and Hamlet says, don't limit yourself to that. There's mystery. And this is where the magician is so good with mystery. And that's why people who are always subject to reason, who think there's, like people who say, well, God must have a reason, or there's got to be a reason for this, not in any way we'll ever comprehend. But if they think if they can find the reason, they might find the reason, but they might, I don't like these shows like CSI very much, or the ones where they all, because here's what they do. It starts with a dead body, and somebody killed the person. So then they cut open the body. They do all this research work, and they find out who killed the person, and the person's still dead. So they've used all their reasoning powers to solve the mystery. But it's not a life-giving mystery, like when he talks about I ask for wonder. So it's that, you know, if we can find the solution, then we can close the book. It's one of the things that makes me crazy about psychology these days, is as soon as we can label you as bipolar or obsessive compulsive, great, wear this name tag, and we won't explore the mystery of your psyche anymore. But don't get me off on a rant.
And take this pill, and you'll be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know, the magician. There's the other thing that we started talking about earlier, Jim, was the chaos. Where a couple of weeks back, and we spoke about the king, where. You know, in King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Moore and Gillette talk about where the king is, you know, in the presence of the king, there's an absence of chaos. The king, no, they say in the book, the king makes order out of chaos. And then Iron John, you know, Robert Bly says, what I subscribe to a little bit more is where the king is, there's an absence of chaos.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to do anything. It's just a way of being. And the magician, just so we're talking about chaos, the magician is very comfortable with chaos. He's the archetype that is very at home with chaos and can, you know, pretty much order it if he needs to, or create it if he needs to, right? You want to create a distraction. You want to create a diversion. The magician creates the diversion. Sleight of hand, that's magician.
The magician can also make use of prejudices and superstitions and play on people's fear and superstitions, and using reason to play on what's irrational in people.
Yeah. Or sometimes what's rational.
Yeah.
Same thing to move them. I know I do that in my practice a lot of times as a coach. You know, I just ask the question that begs to be answered, you know, but I don't answer it. I ask it. And a lot of times the client goes, oh, you want me to answer that? I was like, it's up to you. You want to know the answer? You know, if you had to, what would you say? You know, and usually that's a step in the direction of getting them to do something of their validity, of their choice. And so in all that chaos, and you had brought it up before about the Sorcerer's Apprentice, you know, and that's a great little clip too. Everyone knows in that movie where you know, the magician goes out and Mickey Mouse is the sorcerer's apprentice, and he starts playing with the energy. But he doesn't have the skills. He does not have the skills. He doesn't have the knowledge to control it. So it starts doing whatever it wants to do.
Yeah.
It loses complete control of the mops and the buckets, and he creates havoc. And it could be a dangerous.
Do you have more questions?
Well, I have to go soon. So.
Yeah, I do too. But if you have any last question or any.
I'm cool. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay. Is it just us, Frank?
Well, we've got one more man on. He's out there, but he's been on mute. It's Mr. Farron.
Mm-hmm.
And are you still on mute? I'm going to take you off mute on my end. You still there? Say hello if you are. This man Andai is a master magician. He's a shaman. He's a shaman, so shamans are definitely in the magician family. So, but I think that's it. Any last words on the magician, Jim?
No, but it's given me a lot to think about. And we ended before what I was going to mention to you is I read on Facebook today that you haven't watched any of the conventions. And of course, I've watched every minute of them. Because I'm looking at the casting of spells. They're both casting spells. They're doing incantations. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
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 So,
that's good when you recognize that. That's another great thing around, you know, the archetypes, because when you can recognize it, you don't have to, you know what it is.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be drawn into it. And so many times, you know, in my life, someone has said, they'll say, you know, this is going to, I forget, I can't even bring up an example, but they would say something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I would say, your magic has no power over me. I would walk away because they were trying to suck me into.
There's this, I forget where I read this many years ago, but if you go down to Haiti and you show x-rays to people that are involved in voodoo, and you say these x-rays say that you have terminal cancer and you're going to die in a week, they'll laugh at you. But if the medicine man says you have bad juju, you're going to die within a week, they die. Whereas if you show an American the x-ray, they will die. But if the voodoo guy says you're going to die in a week, I don't buy that.
Right.
They've done tests on this, really. They've really done experiments. So
yeah.
Anyway, let me look at my calendar. I have us on for next week. I know that, yeah. And are we doing the lover next week?
Next week we'll be doing a lover, everybody. So tune in, and that should be fun. It's probably next to the
last one, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if it'll be the last one, but we'll definitely we'll do the lover, and then we'll see where we're going to go from there.
Yeah.
But the lover is a very powerful archetype because it's in the realm of the emotion, and because we're human beings, and the thing that separates us from space aliens is our emotion, and the thing that separates us from spiritual beings is our emotion, our human emotion. The lover is a very powerful archetype to understand, so that we can harness that emotion and not be overcome by it or not suppress it. So it's very important how it directs everything else that we do. So thanks for joining us. And Jim, thank you once again.